All right, welcome back to Cycling in New Zealand. I will take you through my trip on days 13 to 15. Right, now um, in the last video, basically I was up at the end of northern part of Golden Bay, and at this point I had, as you know, had decided to cut across to the west coast via the National Park. Kahurangi National Park. But more specifically, actually, it's called the Heaphy Track. So if you're interested in going across from the Golden Bay to the west coast directly, there is actually no road to get there. And the only way to get there is to go backtrack back through Tucker Hill, then all the way sort of down the central part again, and then cut across. Or I think you might be able to take a helicopter, which is probably super expensive. Now, when I was in Takaka, I went to the visitor center and the cycle shop. The visitor center said, "No way can your bike make it through Heaphy Track." I then went to the cycle shop, and the guy went out with my bike. He's like, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine." Naturally, I decided that okay, the cycle shop guy is right, and he's going to know more than the other person at the visitor center. Now, let's just say I think, didn't exactly know the condition of the track. So I leave where I was staying at in Golden Bay, and it's about a 40-kilometer cycle ride to actually get to the beginning of the Heaphy Track, and then I have another, you can see here, 17.5 kilometers to go to get to the Perry Saddle Hut. Okay, so let me kind of explain the scenario. Basically, there are huts every, so far, 8 kilometers, 17 kilometers, 20 kilometers. They're spread out, and they're designed so that people that are hiking can hike to at least one hut by the end of the day, and then that's where you sleep. You can also tent there, but most people choose to sleep in the hut. The hut, although maybe they're not always called huts, but some of them have an option to sleep in a cabin on basically bunks. So you'll go in and there's a fire going, or you can light a fire, and then there are already bunks there, and so you just put your sleeping bag on the bunk and you don't have to worry about your tent. Now, it's not super cheap. I think it was about $30 a night in New Zealand. So it's about 20 US, which I thought was a little pricey. But anyway, so you kind of get the idea. Basically, it's a 78 or 80 kilometer track path. At some points, nothing more than a riverbed through a national park, and it takes you from Golden Bay and it drops you off at the west coast, another end of the road. Okay, so my first day, I needed to do basically 57.5 kilometers, 40, or maybe it's 67, 40 kilometers to get to the beginning, and then another 18 or 28 to get to the first place where I could sleep. I can't remember which one it is. Okay, one more final note. If you're interested in cycling it, be aware that it normally is not open to cyclists. The last 4 winters, they've had a season where basically they're going to try out cycling. But that may not be true anymore, so definitely research that before you take the Heaphy Track with your bicycle, otherwise people will be super unhappy. Okay, let's kind of just go through, and these are some of the pictures of what it looks like. Basically, hills. At different points, I had to ford rivers or creeks. Some of them are small like this. It's kind of easy to get through. On the first day, or maybe the second day though, I was trying to ford a river, or a small river, and I went all the way in, basically up to my waist, and the bike started to float. And I pushed the bike up on the bank, and so it's even kind of difficult for me to explain just how physical the experience was. But let me just say this: once I actually got going up the climb, is 800 meters up, I basically didn't cycle at all. I was pushing the bike with the gear on it, and there were some mountain bikers going by me, that flew by me. The track at this point, as of 2012, was not in a condition where a hybrid bike could do it, unless you're just an absolute professional cyclist. Now, mountain bikes are different, but my bike, in my physical ability, I physically was unable to pedal up an 800-meter climb in a path, which is huge rocks and everything. Anyways, though, well, you kind of see how high we're going up, and the weather starting to look a little ominous. A little ominous that day. And then I finally made it to the campsite, and I basically was completely exhausted. And they were actually making a movie, or someone was making a movie there, and there was a lot of sort of work going on to build extra cabins in this, so people were being helicoptered in. And there were probably about 20 or 30 people there that night. And so just kind of give you an idea again, like, so you're sharing a room with 10 or 12 other people, and there's already a bed there, a bunk, so you just need your sleeping bag, basically. And you're pretty much good to go. It's a combination of cyclists, or mountain bikers, really, and people that are hiking it, and also people that were working on building the extra cabins. So I woke up the next morning, so this was day 2. I was already super tired, and hit the road first light, 7 a.m., because I wanted to get to basically a river, sort of towards the coast. And it was about another 40, I think it's about 40 kilometers, which is not a lot, but when you're kind of going through conditions, if you see this picture here with this path, that was probably the best the condition was. And this was probably some of the better part. And kind of an open field. I wish I knew more about the science behind it. Really interesting, really beautiful. And I don't think I had too many more pictures that day, but it was a very difficult day. And it was actually the day where I almost got hurt very badly and did get hurt badly. So let me kind of try to explain what happened. And I'm going to tell you this so you aren't tempted to do what I did. I really wanted to get to 40 kilometers and to make it to this really interesting river camp, kind of on the coast where the river and the coast comes together. And I was just flying through. And remember that the path is not, there are points where it's not really good. And at one point earlier in this day, the path ended, and I was having to literally pick up the bike and move it across massive boulders. I mean, there was no cycling. It was me pulling the bike over boulders and huge rocks and lifting it up and all this kind of thing. And then at some point, when I had like a little bit of a downhill, the path became a little bit better, and I just hopped on the bike and started cycling downhill. I did not have cycle shoes on, but just normal tennis shoes. I then basically run into a rock, and in a split second, I'm not able to put my foot down. I then fall to the left, off the path, down the hill. I would say it's about a 10-meter fall, and it all happened so fast. I don't exactly remember what happened, or I mean, I know why it happened because I sort of went into a rock and I didn't go over the rock and I didn't put my foot down. I just basically flipped. The bike and me went off, and the pannier bags flew off. I put my hand out, my left hand out, and to try to break the fall, my head crashed into the ground, light flashed from my eyes. I did have a helmet on, and I was really kind of didn't know, I didn't really know what had happened, and then I realized, okay, I'm off the path, I'm down 10 meters. I had to throw and push the pannier bags back up, sort of drag the bike back up, reload the bike, put the pannier bags back on, bungee cord, the sleeping bag, and the tent and the backpack, all again, and just continue on. I could not, and I sort of it was getting where it was dusk. I had about another 10 kilometers to go, and then I decided, in addition to what had already happened, to skip one camp and to try to make it to this last camp. So then I had to ford these 2 rivers again, this huge ordeal, and I start cycling, and then it becomes dark. Okay, well, you do not want to cycle in the dark. First of all, you're not supposed to. So I put my front light on, my headlamp goes on, my helmet, basically, and I start cycling, and I get to a swing bridge. Now, what is a swing bridge? Basically, you can't just bring your bicycle up on it. You have to take all the pannier bags off it, transport the pannier bags across the bridge, one or two at a time, then lift the bike up like this, vertical, and back through the bike. At one point, I was doing this in the night. The bike and I sort of fell through the suspension bridge at the beginning. I mean, it was just an absolute nightmare. So I get across the bridge and I reload the bike. I continue to. At this point, I can't cycle on anymore because it's dark, and I probably walk it the last hour, get there, and I meet these guys that I had met earlier, and they were just stunned to see me. And they actually were super nice. One of the guys fed me, made dinner for me, like a hot dinner. And then I realized I had this unbelievable pain in my wrist. So I take a couple pain medications, and then I wake up, and I thought I had broken my wrist. I could not sleep at all. I have never really kind of experienced pain like this before. So one of the other girls was up to, and then so she gave me more medication, and she wrapped it up, and terrible night's sleep. I probably slept very little. I woke up the next morning. I can't cycle. I mean, I can't even get on the bike and hold it like this on an uneven surface. So we kind of re-wrap it a little less intense this time, and then I decide to walk out with this guy. Because I didn't know if it was broken. These three guys were saying, like, no way, if it's broken, you wouldn't be able to, you'd be, in unbelievable amount of pain. Like, you do not understand how much pain I'm in. So another guy that was hiking, he's like, okay, we can walk out together. So I'm walking the bike, and at different uphills, he helps me push it. And it's probably about 4 or 5 hours, and then finally we get towards the end. And I'm showing you, oh, by the way, there's bikes, that's kind of where they have these things set up at the campsites for you. And I didn't take any pictures of, the huts. I wish I kind of had it so you could see it. Anyways, here's a view of this river camp, and you can see why I wanted to be there, because it was super beautiful and super interesting. Of course, it was night. Anyways, there it is the next morning. This is my bike, reloaded as we're about to head out. And then this is kind of the direction we go. We're just going down towards the coast, and you can see that, it is just a really extraordinary, beautiful. You're sort of cycling or hiking up above it at some points. At certain points, we do get closer. We do get closer to it. And we have to push it through the sand. Eventually we meet this guy's wife and his kids, and then the kids are happy to take over the bike, and with a big challenge and sort of push the bike out, which was nice. I was physically at this point didn't know what to do. I mean, I was super exhausted. Here's a bridge to kind of give you an idea of what a swing bridge looks like. That is one, but the ones where you have to bring your bike vertical are much smaller. So like they're so small width-wise, you can't even push your bike across. Anyways, that's the last picture I have, but I'll finish the story about, because this is day 3. We get to the end of the park, and I can get on the bike because it's a road again, gravel road, and I start cycling out, and it's about 14 kilometers to go to get to Kahurangi. I cycle. I'm just completely exhausted. I stop, walk a while. I cycle again. I walk a while. And this is a different feel, totally different feel you can have in America. I think like 2 vehicles passed me, in an hour and a half. It's the end of the road. In America, you don't really have an end of the road. All the roads are connected. But in New Zealand, you have like these places. Literally, it's the end of the road. So only people that are going there are people that are going in and out of this national park. And at one point, I had watched this movie with Leon Nelson where they're running away from wolves, and these wolves are trying to kill them. What's it called? Anyways, there's a scene in the movie where the guy says, "I'm giving up. I'm just going to sit here, and whatever happens, happens." And the other 2 guys that's with him, they know that, okay, if you stay here, the wolves are going to come. They're going to kill you. He's like, there could be a hut, a mile down there. He's like, listen, I cannot go 100 more feet. And that's kind of how I felt. Like I just didn't know. Okay, I'm just going to sit by the side of the road for a couple of hours. I physically have never experienced something like this before. Not just the risk, but my whole body was in this is a ridiculous amount of pain. And I hope I'm not turning you off from not doing the cycle trip, because cycle trip is great. But this was a really intense experience. And I I finally get, start walking again. So I make up this small hill. And at the bottom, I see a pub. I'm like, oh, yes. Like, okay. So I cycle into the pub. There were, like 4 girls sitting outside having a beer or something. And I walk up to the publican. I ask him or her, okay, where's the backpackers? He's like, it's just right across the street. And I cycle over there. And then finally, there's like this Czech girl there who's says, yes, you have arrived. Welcome from the national park. And then I told her, like, you have no idea how physically tired I am. And I end up staying in Kahurangi 4 nights, and that'll be the next post. So a lot of times, people ask me, it's like, okay, was it worth going through the national park and just physically experiencing things like that? I think the answer is yes. I mean, yes, it was not always fun and easy at the time, but looking back on it, I feel like that was just an incredible accomplishment. And it really stretched me physically, but just trying to do something that you've never done before. I never forget like cycle touring. Like this was way beyond an extreme experience than just getting out on a bicycle and cycling around. This was just a whole new level. The one thing I would say is, and especially for me or anyone, don't be in a rush. That day 2, when I fell off the track and had a fall that could have turned out much worse, and B, like the last hour and a half in the dark, don't do that. There are enough camp huts to turn it into a 3-night, 4-day cycle ride across the park instead of a 3-day, 2-night one. I mean, just to kind of give you an idea, by the time I got to Kahurangi, in addition to the wrist being torn, I did have, my legs were completely cut off from wading the rivers, just going into the river, and I don't know, and just getting cut at different points. So it was a really intense experience. But yeah, day 12 to 15, Heaphy Track, Golden Bay. Definitely Google that, check it out, and yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.